You're waiting for this, I know. Welcome to a first for the sofa, which is a double bill this morning. I'm absolutely, just excited, and it's amazing to have two wonderful people. So we now got Steve Noble's watching us. He's over there. Rasheed's been watching us, and this is Rasheed. Hello, Rasheed.
Let's just hope it's one of those, like, that second album that's just a letdown. You know, the second album that's let down, or the second movie, and the second that was like, why on earth? Yeah, they'd already got the check for doing the second one, and there was just like,
why did they do that? Because we're just trying to make some cash.
Well, I have to say, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. I mean, it's just a real pleasure. I'm so looking forward to this conversation and speaking to you, and I actually want to just hear your story, because I know that's fascinating, but it's just a real pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for coming down. So, wonderful. So you've got a little sample. I know you've seen a couple of the sofas. You've got a little sample of how we sort of go, and I know already.
A new sofa,
exactly.
Multicoloured sofa.
The rainbow colours.
The rainbow-coloured sofa.
So, yeah, you know the flow. We've got some music in the background as well.
It's beautiful.
It's Sunday, so the choirs are singing for us. Why don't you take the sofa? What do you want to ask?
Actually. Well, it's quite nice, isn't it? Because I know you've got an acting background. I've got singing among my background, so it's kind of nice just hearing the sounds and hearing the sound of life just vibrating through. And I guess life is just vibrating through us. And I mean, I'm just here listening and hearing a sound coming out of my mouth. That's kind of interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So, I don't know what there's to say. I mean, we're touching about that. You know, what is there to be said? I wonder, what is there to be said? What is there necessarily to be created? What is there necessarily to be done? I mean, we met at an event for creative people, filmmakers and so on, and I'm passionate about film. I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about that which can really powerfully affect us. And I guess that what's beautiful about something like this, again, it's got the opportunity for something that just to connect with somebody and resonate with somebody. So I guess that's really powerful. And it's quite funny when you're a vessel through which a noise makes. You're just hitting that thing. Isn't it amazing how that sound just vibrates, and how we just are an expression of whatever it is that is happening? That's kind of quite odd and fascinating. You know what I mean? I'm just hearing the sonics kind of coming through from out there, from here, from your voice. Wow. Yeah,
and again, it's you're tapping into the presence of this moment, right? That's what we're tapping into.
Yeah.
Because that is all that we have right now.
That's right.
And the four people here with us, that's all we have. That's all there is.
That's right.
So if you can actually tune into that, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting. The last conversation you were having, you were both talking about how, in a way, what a wonderful time it is now, isn't it? And I think that's quite beautiful. Very often when we're talking about stuff, we think, oh, this time isn't a good time, or the old times are good times, or good times are ahead. I think there's something beautiful how in every moment there is just a possibility of something magical. I really do believe that. I know it might sound like a funny thing to say, but I do think there's something very magical in any moment, that there is just a possibility for something very magical to happen if one can just embrace life. Maybe my thing is, maybe why I'm here is that one thing I've learned along the journey that I've been in is that life presents all sorts of opportunities just to be and to embrace life. I think if there's one thing that I've learned is that life embraces those who embrace life. It even embraces those who doesn't embrace life, and there's only one choice, whether you're going to embrace life, if you're going to fight life. If you fight it, ultimately you can lose. If you embrace it, you're at one with it, it will flow through you. But sometimes that fighting life is part of life too. You know, you're talking about that chaos kind of thing, but it is beautiful, and it's beautiful how even those dark times that we call dark, often it's those that are just so beautiful. It's those that wake us up to life.
To embracing life,
Oh, big time. And they gift us with stuff. I certainly know in my old times as a creative, the most beautiful songs would come through the the darkness. So life is always there, be it bereavement, be it separation, be it something that's just affected you on the news, whatever it is, there's an opportunity for us to ask ourselves, who are we? Why are we really here? What is really possible here? How can I be at a point, Steve was talking about this before, how can I, on a very personal level, connect to myself, and then from there, in terms of relationships, how do I relate to those around me, the people in this room, the people in my life? And I think there's always an opportunity for us to take a fresh look.
Yeah.
Look again.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, to ramble.
No, good. I was like listening and concentrating on my listening and going, yeah, that's good. And as the thoughts come up, don't they? As they go, oh, I could go somewhere with that one. Oh, I could go somewhere with that one. No. Listen, and so on. And it's a moment of silence.
Yeah. And I want to talk to you a bit about, in a way, I'm curious about you and your story, because I think it's fantastic that you do these kind of dialogues. I really do. And what I've got a sense of, and we've only met once prior to today, but I feel as though I know you quite well, actually, which is quite interesting. I feel as though I spiritually know who it is that you are, and I feel as though I know something of the journey that it is that you've been on. But I think that you've also been to places that I've never been to. Literally, mentally, chemically.
Definitely.
And all sorts of that kind of stuff. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Let's find out. Okay, I've done this. Have you?
No, but I just think there's something about that, and I think there's something about the opportunity. I mean, I'm really curious to learn a little bit about that. I just think there's something about these dialogues. I want to know a bit about these dialogues and what they're about, and what you're keen.
Yeah, totally. That's wonderful. It's also nice sometimes to get that, because the sofa for me is very much about a dialogue, and I love the way you describe it as a dialogue. And it is about us questioning and delving deeper, and you asking me questions and so on. Sometimes people think it's just an interview, and it's not. That's why the sofa's yours as well. It's like whatever you want to ask or bring up is great. I'll go with that. We'll go with a bit of my story for you, and also some of the richness that you started on a minute ago. It's just like moving into that place of business. Maybe we'll come back there if we naturally come back there, because what you was describing was really, just a place of actually moving beyond right and wrong, good and bad, labeling it dark or light and so on, which is a really beautiful place to go, which we can maybe come back to. In a nutshell, I do my journey started on a council estate. So I was very much, grew up on a council estate. My father left me when I was 1, but I don't say that as a deprived, sad story. I'm so thankful and forgiving and beautiful father that I had to bring me here. And he was at a young age where he was going through an experience with my mother at the time where, he was young. I think he was 20 something. And I look back at my age at 22 and I was like, well, I never wanted to bring children into the world. And he had 2, so I can imagine the pressures and what he was going through and where he was at. So then I had a stepfather from sort of, I think about 2 or 3 till about 7 or 8, I think, and then he left as well. It was my mum's second husband. And then really from that point, it was, Mum had a partner, so we grew old. We was growing up on a number of different council estates. Might have been a bit older when Roger left, and then really just fun, vibrant, enjoying life. You don't at that age you're not going, oh, it's a council estate, my life's crap. You just live with whatever your life is. And to be honest with you, I don't actually look back and think that it was really that hard. But if I tell certain people, they go, whoa, that sounds like a hard life. But actually, my mum was really supportive. She was an amazing woman, and we had food, I had stylish clothes, and I was very much at the time thinking that everything was fine. So I had in my mind a good childhood, a lot of fun, a lot of adventure, and so on. It's probably when I was about 14/15 started to think, well, I started hanging around with older guys, and these older guys were very much into, getting up to mischief, petty theft, and hanging out in town and stuff. So really it moved from there into, I started shoplifting when I was 15, and I was caught shoplifting with some Lynx deodorant. Why I wanted to steal that, I don't know, but Lynx was the in thing, So it was like, I steal that, it only cost £1 for God's sake, It's like, start young. So from there it sort of went on a bit of a journey for the next sort of 15 to 18, at which point I was stealing, burgling, and going through a number of different, smoking a lot of marijuana, and then moved up, and then ended up from theft and also being caught with quite a large amount of marijuana. I ended up in jail when I was 18. Okay. So that was a real turning point, one of those big moments which Steve was saying as well, where you get those big choice moments in life where it's like, whoa, I have a choice here, where am I going? So I mean, from 18 to sort of 20, 21 onwards, I really tried to get out of that environment. So even when I come out of jail, I was still doing some crime, but I really started to focus on not doing theft, as it were, but was still very much in the crime world, the black market, if you want to call it that. That sort of led up to dealing drugs on in many respects, and so on, and clubbing, moved into that sort of world, and then night clubbing, taking ecstasy, cocaine, and then really realising that again, a lot of fun, a lot of good times, a lot of laughter, but also then realising that actually I've got a lot of addictive things going on here, So although I might not be doing cocaine every day of the week, I'm still doing it most weekends. Although I'm not taking ecstasy every day of the week, I'm doing it most weekends. So I had an addiction based on that ritual. So that went on for a number of years, and at the time, to get out of that environment in the council environment and get out there, I actually decided to become an actor.
Which is a big jump.
Yeah, a huge jump.
Huge jump.
Yeah,
and how can somebody who's, the logical thing would be, okay, how could somebody from a council estate want to be an actor and all that kind of, tell me a bit about.
Well, basically what happened is that I was sat on the sofa actually smoking a joint, watching Home and Away. Do you know Home and Away? Yeah. This is my little story. This is one of my pinnacle moments. I think I spoke for about 6 months telling them I was going to be an actor, and they go, yeah, of course you are. So, and I was watching Home and Away, and I was just watching it, and I thought, this is quite poor acting. Either that, or I'm just stoned. But whatever the thing, this is not great. I think I can do that. It was very much that moment, like I can do that. And I've always sort of had that mentality, which some people don't possess, and I'm very happy to say that I do possess that, which is, I can do that. Life's here, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I have my working limbs, I can do that. So anyway, that sort of led to me trying out a number of things. I went to an improvisation class. He really loved my energy, said I should go to an amateur theatre in Ealing. I went there, I got a 2-year course in there, and at the time was working for myself and a whole other stuff going on, and that was even a really hard transition because there was a lot of pulls of like, you're never going to be an actor, what you're doing this for. Friends and certain people around my circle didn't think, they were still doing other things which I was being pulled into. So that went on, and then finished that and basically got an agent, started to get little roles and got a little TV job with David Jason, Sir David Jason, and did a little. This was actually a big turning point for me because I got a job with David Jason, which I'd been watching for years on Only Fools and Horses. But also the key thing was that it was in a production called Diamond Geezer, and I was playing a guy in jail.
Right.
And in the audition, they asked if I'd ever been to jail, and that was a massive point for me because the whole thing about this jail thing, crime, taking drugs, up until probably about 3 years ago when I started to explore transparent communication, I didn't want to share any of that. So that is the stuff you don't share. Because if you share that, you're judging yourself based on your perception, but then everybody else is judging you.
Got you. But I think this is what's really powerful, isn't it? Because in the conversation you were having before, I guess what can happen in all these kind of conversations, which I guess people dub kind of spiritual conversations, there's this perception that there's people who're spiritual over here, and there's people who've got lives that could never be spiritual over there, and that they never necessarily meet. And what I love from just what you've said there is that it is absolutely possible to move from a situation where whatever's going on, or things are chaotic, or we feel as though we're not in control, or whatever's going on in life, it's possible to move from complete confusion to complete enlightenment in a few years.
Yes.
Isn't that great? For some people, it make you feel as though you need to do transcendental meditation or floating or whatever, and it's not necessary.
Years,
So what happened in that journey from all that stuff, acting? Because acting can also be ego, me. Let me throw that in there, and in terms of. So basically on that journey of acting's about self, right? But it's also about, a lot of it's about ego self, in terms of, I want to be famous, I want to be the man on stage, I'm in a competitive environment where I need to be the best. There's a lot of actors out there, 90% of actors don't get work, so, excuse me, you're just another statistic, right? Who are you? How are you going to be better than the rest?
And so at that point there, it was very much like, right, going to be famous, going to be Johnny Depp, going to be Brad Pitt, you know what I mean? Set my you know, drive on that mode, and just went for it, you know, in terms of, and didn't even go for it actually. I procrastinated like mad, but went for it to the best that I could, whilst throwing in a whole heap of obstacles along the way, like became a personal trainer and so on. But these are not, looking back now, they're not obstacles, because actually, take acting out the equation and then bring in, because what happened is I had a huge awareness that forget making a film to tell a story, what about the film I'm in?
Right, I hear you.
What about the life film and the film that I can actually be a part of now?
Right. So did it happen when you were on a film?
No, I tell you, what happened is actually I've been doing this for 10 years, right? So I've been doing commercials, going to auditions and so on, and you know, still, then I started making my own films, short films, becoming a better actor, and you know, then I made a feature film, and then actually I started to really get a break into the industry. I got a very huge budget film that I played a Neanderthal.
I saw a little bit
right,
of that.
See a little bit of that, and that was a, you know, highly paid film, and also it's a $19 million budget. Took me for 9 months around the world in different places, in different locations. Epic journey, massive. It was about the origin of our species.
Yeah, I thought it was very spooky. Can I just say, I thought it was ironic that, for me, because I think that you're somebody who comes across with a lot of power. I noticed that from the first time I saw you. You have a power about you, you have an energetic power about you, so I'm no surprise in terms of the acting, but also this kind of stuff. And I thought it was quite, I couldn't help but think there was something kind of apt, because that movement from something that seemed, you know, that there's something about all those different levels of our experience, from a very, I don't know, from a very, okay, we're here with nature. It's quite funny, it's that there's an evolution but not an evolution in that, isn't it? From being at one with nature and things being very base, but yet being very spiritual, here we are in the world, and wow, this kind of stuff going, and through to all the transcendental spirit, I get a sense that it's a long way, but it's not a long way at the same time. Do you know what I mean? I just think that's interesting. I kind of got that when I was watching that. I thought, it's kind of apt that you're playing that.
Yeah, well, that come at a time, you know, the crazy thing as well, that come at a time when I just made a film, and it was about crime, and it was about a guy overcoming his basically he was a drug dealer. So I'm thinking, actually, let's look at the bigger picture. Why is the first film that I make, a feature film called Other Side of the Game, about a character that is dealing drugs, that doesn't want to deal drugs anymore, and he's trying to get out of it? And I'm like, this is very resemblance to me 7 years prior, right? So it's like, this is sort of morphing up, and this is two friends that I'd met. And then at this point in 2007, you could say I have what Steve said is like some people have an awakening. 2007 was this awakening to what I call love, but let's throw the word love out the window because it's too loaded, and people listening to this, oh, love, you know, oh, you're airy fairy, you've gone all like, you know, 60s. What happened there was that I had a huge, this is at the time when I've just made Other Side of the Game, realising the stories that in the film industry everybody's telling, they're just regurgitating the same stories over and over again. Then I get this huge opportunity to be a lead actor again in a huge budget film, and I take it, which is taking me down a path where for years I'd been thinking about I wanted to be on the side of billboards, and I wanted to be up on there, you know, with Brad Pitt and everything. So I get that opportunity. I get to Paris, I'm on the side of every bus, I'm on like billboards in the Champs-Élysées or whatever, however you say it, and I'm all over the place. And I'm like, all right, this has no substance to me anymore. Wow. This doesn't have the vast substance that it had 10 years prior, of like this big desire to manifest this reality. Now, 2007, I've gone into this place of love, this space of like moving me beyond something, moving me into something that's so vast, so beyond form, that it's like, and this connection that I've had, that I realised that everything that I'd been living fundamentally was from a foundation of fear and a lie. The actions and the life that I was following was fundamentally a lie. And the communication I was having was a lie. I was cheating on all my partners. I was talking about people behind their back. I was showing up from a very dysfunctional, non-authentic foundation of fear. And my whole life, when I look back, was actually driven from fear. My reason to get out of being a criminal was fear. My reason to be an actor was fear. I wanted money, I wanted to get out of that poverty. It was all fear, but the fear was driving me. So fear is a powerful energy, you know? And when you transmute that fear into action, it can create, well, look what Hitler did. So look what people do, you know?
I'm curious to know, what happened in that shift? Did you just see it, and did it just kind of fall away? What happened happened? Because you saw that, because it seems as though it no longer resonated. You looked at the billboards and all that kind of stuff, where lots of people think, yeah, I've made it, and blah, 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 blah. But it's like you saw that and saw through it.
But this happened over a period, say for example, 2007 I'd been writing journals. I'd been reading the self-development books. I've been reading the books and the spiritual books and so on. Then in 2007 I had what you want to call an epiphany, if you want to call it, just for wording's sake. And I have this little epiphany. It's like, whoa, there's a whole lot more going on here that I can be a part of that is actually fully magic, or that I am already a part of, and that just changes my choices. So what happened at that point, if you want to call it, it's like, you know, I know Steve mentioned about the Eckhart Tolle moment. You know, it was like he sat there and then all of a sudden he sees a bird for the first time, he hears for the first time. And it's like I didn't have a massive moment like that, but I did have a change in senses. My senses shifted. I was hearing differently. I was feeling differently. I was getting sensations in my body which I hadn't experienced before. Maybe I had, but I wasn't aware of them. Yeah? So my sound was changing, my view was changing, the richness of this experience was changing. Even looking at you now and the colour and the light falling on you in your eyes, and the fact that you're here as a human being, and the way that our skin folds, and the way that the hair stops in the right place, and we have eyebrows, and it was like, and I started looking at myself in the mirror going, whoa! You know, I see my eyes for the first time, and I was like, whoa! How do the eyes work? And I'd been a personal trainer, so I studied the internal organs. So I was fascinated with the body anyway. And then from that point, I started to information started to come to me. Synchronicity started to unfold. And then I was like, look at the state of the world. Documentary after documentary after documentary. Then I went into a bit of a depression. A bit of a, you know, big like, whoa, yeah, the world's great. It's all love. I'm in ecstasy. Yeah, I love you and I'm having such a great experience, to like, whoa. Through our actions, we humans are creating a whole heap of shit. You know, from everything, from the state of our health, the state of our diet, the state of our the oil situation, the food situation. You know, and then we went into Monsanto conspiracy, the Bilderberg Group. You know, secret societies. NASA, the military, the controlling of the society, the whole, conforming of human species, saying yes to things that they're unaware of, that is creating the unfolding of all of this ripple effect of pain and suffering. I'm part of that.
Yeah, because that can happen, can't it? That kind of almost panic attack around, you know, it would seem as though, again, this is one of the funny things, isn't it, about this so-called, I guess, spiritual journey, that, okay, if I'm going down a normal path, everything's going to be hunky-dory, or at least bearable. And if I go on some kind of a spiritual journey, all sorts of weird things are going to happen. I remember I had this feeling as though if I go down the spiritual path, I might lose myself. Well, you might lose this idea of yourself, like you're saying, but you ain't going to lose anything. It's still going to be there.
Totally.
And then there's sometimes this thing, okay, well, life is this, and it's all this, and there's that, and that's going on, all this conspiracy stuff. I guess in a way, that's all, whatever, in a way. Because as you were saying before, I think it was, in a way, in a way it's there, but there are just, as you were saying, there are these just different layers of stuff that's going on, as you describe them, these different, like, magazine racks, these different elements, these different aspects of life. The aspects of life were one, there's crime here, there's this there, there's people doing humanitarian work there, all these different experiences of the human form.
Exactly.
That's just happening.
Yes. Yeah. That is exactly it. And you can't, and the thing is as well, is that, you know, I went into that depression, come out of that depression of like, well, I can't save the world, especially not with the pound that I have. You know, it's like £1, what am I going to do? Pop out and get on the bus, just talk to the bus driver. You know, I'm not going to save the world. So I had to come out of that illusion, because I did fall into a deep place of illusion, pain, I need to save the world. And then really what come out of that was, you know, the journey of authenticity, the journey of how can I communicate to people so they don't have to go through what I went through in order to be themselves? How can I empower people to not have to go through all of that unconscious pain, dysfunction, suffering, lies, deceit, not feeling good?
Isn't that amazing? But isn't that amazing, Simon? Because isn't that, you know, we're drawn to, you know, we're hearing music there, we're drawn to things like film, music and so on, because there's something about that can touch us, so that we don't necessarily need to go through that necessary thing to be compassionate to it. And isn't it funny that we can watch all the films, or we watch something, or we hear something amazing, we think, oh, and then we forget that there's something beautiful and real and alive about that. So it's funny how we miss all of these opportunities to find ourselves. And I think there's something very powerful about that real communication, where I do think that can be very transformational. When you do give somebody that space and you hear the person who's had whatever life experience, and you speak to them so honestly that something just resonates and vibrates in them, that they hear what you're saying and that they can find a place of themselves that is compassionate to themselves and that is very healing. Because I guess lots of people go on this kind of spiritual journey because it's something to do with healing, and I do believe that that kind of healing can happen in a moment. I really do believe it can happen actually momentarily. It can happen in a moment. I remember ages ago, you know, if I can share this, I remember I gave a talk, I wrote this CD, I produced this CD called Become Who You Are. Become Who You Are is this paradoxical phrase that came to me. It's a tweak on a phrase that something that Desmond Tutu had said, you're a very special person, become what you are, and then this Become Who You Are became my tagline. And it's a paradox because you already are who you are, but there's this feeling that we need to be somebody else. I need to be this, I need to be that, and all the other nonsense that we believe that we need to be. But after I'd recorded my first CD, which is a very traditional kind of coaching CD, and I wrote these sleeve notes which were far better than the CD, like I was saying before, I felt it was more authentic or far more rich. The other, don't get me wrong, the other CD had practical stuff, but that was fine. But I recorded this thing called Become You Are, which was a stream of consciousness. I wrote the song titles, the titles, I think about it like a singer, and I went in and recorded it as a stream of consciousness. Anyway, I gave a talk at this big personal development show. It's one of the first times I had to give a big talk at a big show. And I wondered, what could I talk about? I realized I could only talk about one thing, it's Become Who You Are. For me, it's my version of this transparent communication. I just got up at this personal development show, walked into the room and just spoke. I'd been walking around this room all day and there'd been all these people in personal development saying all sorts of things, but I just thought, there's something missing. You know, I always felt like the kid in The Emperor's New Clothes, as though the Emperor's naked, but everyone's saying that they're wearing fantasy. I'm just like, anyway, I got up and I spoke this Become Who You Are talk. And that was quite a powerful moment for me because it reminded me about being a singer where you know, if you walk out with the same thing in acting, you've just got to somehow connect. And you've got to be authentic because people know if you're authentic or if they're not. They can see right through you. They may not know anything about singing, but they know for sure if you mean that song, if you feel that song. And I gave this talk, and this guy in his 30s, and he came and he said, can I speak to you? You know, I wanted to chat to you. And so he came and he saw me at my coaching studio, told me his life story. It took him an hour to tell me his life story, and pretty much everything from the word go that could have been difficult happened. He was estranged from his parents. I don't think he knew them. People told him that he'd come from nothing, he'd come to nothing, and all this stuff. And until in his late 30s, he'd got involved in somewhere along the lines, some really unpleasant stuff he didn't tell me, but I could imagine. And then a couple of positive things had happened. He'd met a partner, she believed in him, and somebody in personal development who believed in him. Anyway, at the end of the story, he told me his life story. It took him an hour. I said, I heard this question fall out of my lips. How much of your life story has got anything to do with you? He was silent, I was silent. And he said almost none of it. The whole thing had nothing to do with him, based on somebody else's idea of him, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he wanted to go into schools and help kids and so on. I said, fine, if you do that, fine, but it's enough for you to be that in your own life. Yeah. If you come from that place of compassion and connection, it will be transformational. But I said, if you do go into schools, there's one thing you telling them that they could be this, this and that, fine, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if you go in there and you let them know you believe in them, who they are today, magic can happen. And this is what I've found to be true. If you can connect to somebody, there's something profound that happens because there's something that in that human experience where they're seen and often seen for the first time that's very transformational. I know that's a bit of a ramble.
No,
but I
good.
love there's something about this, and there's something about these talks that I think is very powerful because it gives them the space that honors who it is they are, the story, all of that stuff, and all those events, you know, the events and situations that have happened. And for them to see which of these things really resonate with me. Yeah. How is it I can connect with myself? How is it I can connect to other people in life? And how is it I can be what is authentic to me in the world? And for me, that's the invitation of conversations, dialogues like this. It doesn't necessarily need to be spiritual. I think it's wonderful when somebody can see somebody who hasn't necessarily been a monk, hasn't necessarily been this or that. They can relate to this experience of somebody who's real. Yeah, I've been in the counselling state. This guy, where this guy's coming from, yeah, it resonates with me. That's magical. Isn't that great? And I think that's, again, you and Steve were talking about the shift. Isn't it wonderful that now, no longer this spiritual, so-called spiritual stuff, whatever. I haven't read many of these books. People say to me, oh, do you want to know about this? I don't know who any of these people are. I don't know anything about it. I know nothing about it. I'm amazed.
And there's so many. How could you know them all as well?
Well, yeah. You know, I'm not. The funny thing is, I'm also not really interested in it.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in spirituality.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's
totally.
Not funny. Yeah, but I find
it is funny. But the thing is, again, is that we said earlier that spirituality in itself can be separating from what is, because I think you're very much more about it all just is, and it's all just this experience of isness unfolding, and what do you want to experience, and what do you want to what do you want to bring to it?
Yeah, and can we just embrace it? For me, the thing that I've learned, I think the learning has been, it's about the embracing. It's happening. It's going to happen anyway. And some of it's happening. It's all happening. The gesticulating's happening. This conversation's happening. And all this noise is going around. We can try all day long to control it. It's quite paradoxical because I'm a life coach. On paper, my job is to help people control this. The magic happens when we simply embrace life and ourselves as it is. All of it, including the fears, including all the doubts, including all the disappointments, including all the things that we thought were really horrible, which are always the things that awaken us to life and to ourselves and to the magic, the subtlety, the profoundness of life. And isn't that incredible that life will gift us that, and it's here and it's present all the time, and you can't get away from it, you can't run away from it. It is here, and the moment you embrace it, you don't have to do any work. You do not need to do years of personal development. You don't need to buy any of my CDs or any of my talks or any of that other rubbish. You don't need any of it. You can just be and be who it is that you are, and that will resonate. That thing that you were shaped to be will make the noise that it was always shaped to make. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that the most beautiful thing that happens, and that can happen to all of us? And that's the invitation of life, it strikes me. That is the most beautiful thing. That's just beautiful.
Well,
I think it's incredible.
I think that is the place to. That's the end of the talk, but I think that is the beautiful place to end. I mean, we should just edit that and put that bit out there as well. Do you know what I mean? We can chop and change this, we can cut this up, and we can use it for ourselves. So, we've come to an end.
Yeah, a pleasure.
But that just flew by, as always, and I know that again, it's been rich. We're going to sit, I think all three of us are going to sit on the sofa, aren't we? We're all going to sit on the sofa and do something. So, hugs, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
Excellent. Thank you for listening. Take care.
Peace.
Simon on the sofa.
Peace.